Hello children, welcome back to chemistry session. In previous videos, we have discussed first unit, that is some basic concepts of chemistry. In today's session, I am going to start second unit, that is atomic structure. Atomic structure or structure of atom. You have learned in previous classes that you have learned in 9th class what is inside atom chapter. In that chapter you have learned atomic models. Atomic models like Thomson's atomic model and Rutherford's alpha scattering experiment and Bohr's atomic model. So those models have given some basic idea about structure of atom. In this unit, we are going to learn atomic models and discovery of subatomic particles and Heisenberg uncertainty principle, de Broglie hypothesis, Schrodinger wave equation. Let us start today's session, children. Atomic structure. Earlier days, people told that matter is made up of tiny particles called atoms and molecules. And in earlier days, before Christ, Greek philosopher Democritus he was a Greek philosopher. He proposed a word, atomio. Atomio means which is non-divisible, which could not be divided into further smaller unit, and he was known as Democritus. He was a Greek philosopher, and Indian says known as Maharshi Kanta. He proposed the word Anu or Parmanu. Anu or Parmanu was the smallest particle of matter. But later, John Dalton in 1808 proposed that atom was the smallest particle of matter which could not be divided into further smaller units. And Dalton was the first scientist which explained first theory of matter, that is called as Dalton's atomic theory, in 1808. This Dalton's atomic theory was completely based on laws of chemical combination which we have seen in first unit. Those are law of conservation of mass, law of constant proportion and law of multiple proportion. Based on the laws of chemical combination, John Dalton proposed the first theory of matter known as atomic theory of matter. So according to that theory, matter is made up of smallest particles called atoms, and atom is the fine particle of matter which could not be divided into further smaller units, and atom takes place in the chemical reactions. Later, in the year 1830, Michael Faraday done some experiments. In that experiments, he showed that he have considered electrolysis experiment. Electrolysis means we will consider a electrolytic cell. Electrolytic cell means a cell is made up of metal container, and the cell contains two electrodes called cathode and anode. Cathode has negative charge and anode has positive charge. And the cell has to be filled with a solvent called electrolyte. The liquid solvent is called as electrolyte. Electrolyte is a substance which conducts electricity in electrolysis process, and the terminals of the electrodes are connected to the battery. Now we are passing electricity through the electrodes. On passing electricity through the electrodes, Michael Faraday could observe different kind of matter present at the different electrodes and different chemical reactions takes place at different electrodes. He could observe reduction takes place at cathode and oxidation takes place at anode. You have learned the definitions of reduction and oxidation. In terms of electrons, oxidation means loss of electrons, reduction means gain of electrons in terms of electron shelter. And we could observe different kind of matter is presented to different electrodes. Suppose here cathode has negative charge. Positively charged particles present at the cathode. And anode has positive charge and negatively charged particles presented or collected at anode. So based on this Michael Faraday's experiment, Michael Faraday's electrolysis experiment, he could conclude that matter is made up of, that means atom contains different kind of particles. Those particles are called as subatomic particles. Those particles are called as subatomic particles. Subatomic particles. So later scientists done some experiments to discover these subatomic particles. Now let us talk about discovery of subatomic particles. Discovery of subatomic particles. Let us see discovery of cathode rays. Discovery of cathode rays. So, how did scientists discover cathode rays? G.J. Stoney, he was the first scientist. He developed a tube. Partially evacuated tube. The partially evacuated glass tube is known as discharge tube. It is something like this, children. It is a partially evacuated glass tube. This is vacuum chamber. By using this, you can adjust the pressure in the discharge tube. This is called discharge tube. Discharge tube is nothing but partially evacuated. Partially evacuated glass tube is nothing but discharge tube. So G.J. Stoney was the first scientist who developed a apparatus known as discharge tube. And later scientists William Crookes done the experiment. The experiment is known as cathode rays discharge tube experiment. Cathode rays discharge tube experiment. Let us talk about cathode rays discharge tube experiment. What is meant by discharge tube? Discharge tube is nothing but it is a partially evacuated glass tube which contains two metal strips called electrodes. These are nothing but two metal strips called electrodes. One acts as cathode and another one acts as anode. Here cathode has negative charge and anode has positive charge. And these two electrodes are connected to the external battery. And before sealing the discharge tube, there is a particular gas present in the discharge tube. That's why it is called as partially evacuated. Means before sealing the discharge tube, there is a certain gas present in the discharge tube because here electric discharge takes place through gases. That is called as Electric discharge takes place with the help of gas chiller. That's why before sealing the discharge tube, it must be filled with any one particular gas. After that, we have to seal the discharge tube. With the help of vacuum chamber, we can adjust the pressure inside the discharge tube. And these two electrodes are connected to the battery. When we adjust the experimental conditions, like pressure condition as well as voltage condition, then we can observe that this discharge tube, some invisible rays are passing from the cathode and to anode. So we can observe at conditions, experimental conditions such as at extremely low pressure condition. At low pressure condition, that is at 10 to the power minus 4. So pressure we have to maintain at 10 to the power minus 4 atmospheric pressure, and at high voltage, that is 10,000 voltage. So at these conditions of pressure and voltage, at 10 to the power minus 4 atmospheric pressure and at 10,000 voltage, then electric discharge takes place in the discharge tube. Electric discharge means at the conditions of temperature, pressure and voltage, some invisible rays are starting from the cathode. They are starting from the cathode and they move towards anode. Some invisible rays are starting from the cathode and they move towards anode. We cannot observe their rays because they are invisible rays. That is why here anode is made up of porous material. There is a hole present in the anode, and behind the anode, the glass tube is coated with phosphorescent material, that is zinc sulfide. ZNS means zinc sulfide. So behind the anode, the glass tube is coated with zinc sulfide. Zinc sulfide is a phosphorescent material. So whenever the rays strike the zinc sulfide material, then it emits glow. It emits glow means it produces light in the discharge tube. So based on this, we conclude that when electricity passes through the electrodes, then rays are starting from the cathode. This is the direction of the ray children. Rays are starting from the cathode to anode. So this experiment was done by William Crookes. William Crookes done the experiment. This is discharge tube experiment or cathode ray discharge tube experiment. Let us discuss this again, children. Here it is a discharge tube. Discharge tube is nothing but partially evacuated glass tube, and which contains two metal strips called electrodes, cathode and anode. Cathode has negative charge, anode has positive charge. And before sealing the discharge tube, it must be filled with any one gas. And we can adjust the pressure inside the discharge tube with the help of vacuum chamber. With the help of vacuum chamber, we can adjust the pressure inside the discharge tube. Now, these ends of the electrodes are connected to the battery. When we adjust the conditions of pressure as well as voltage, then we can observe this light glow in the discharge tube. At the conditions of 10 to the power minus 4 atmospheric pressure and 10,000 voltage, at the conditions, some invisible rays are originating from the cathode and moves towards the anode, and these invisible rays passes through the anode and they strike the zinc sulfide screen. So whenever they strike the zinc sulfide screen, and they emit this discharge tube glow. So this is called cathode ray discharge tube experiment. Best example of this discharge tube, children, tube light. Tube light is an example of cathode ray discharge tube, because it is a long cylindrical tube. It is a long cylindrical tube, and the surface of the glass tube is coated with phosphorescent material. So when we switch on the light, what will happen? It emits glow. This is because we are supplying electricity through we are giving electricity, and the tubelet contains two electrodes, cathode and anode, and the particles, cathode particles, moving from cathode to anode. And whenever the invisible particle strike this material, zinc sulfide screen or phosphorescent material, then the tube emit glow. This is called as cathode ray experiment. Now let us talk about properties of cathode rays or characteristics of cathode rays. The properties of cathode rays were explained by J.J. Thomson. Properties of cathode rays are explained by J.J. Thomson. So according to J.J. Thomson, cathode rays starts from cathode and moves towards anode. Because when electricity passes through the electrodes, then cathode ray starts from the cathode and then moves towards anode. And these cathode rays are invisible rays. We cannot see or we cannot observe by naked eye. That's why to make them visible, this glass tube was covered with, or this glass tube was coated with either fluorescent or phosphorescent material. So when the cathode rays strike the fluorescent or phosphorescent material, then the glass tube emit glow. That means we can observe the cathode rays with the help of certain materials like fluorescent or phosphorescent material. And these cathode rays possess kinetic effect, children. What do you mean by kinetic energy? These cathode rays causes mechanical energy. And how can we prove that these cathode rays possess mechanical energy? Because, so when you place a light paddle wheel, in the path of cathode rays, then the cathode, this light paddle wheel moves towards the anode. So this light paddle wheel experiment proves that these cathode rays possess mechanical effect because they possess energy. That energy is called as kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is due to motion of the particles, because the particles are in the motion, which gives out the energy that is called as mechanical energy or mechanical effect. So whenever the light paddle wheel moves towards the anode, then which causes mechanical effect. And these cathode rays cast shadow formation. And how can you prove that the cathode rays cast shadow formation? When you place the heavy metal, in the path of or the direction of the cathode rays, when you place the heavy metal in the direction of the cathode ray, and this cathode rays produces shadow. This is because these cathode rays doesn't passes through the heavy metal or higher metals like platinum, silver, gold, copper. That is why when the cathode rays falls on the heavy metals or heavier metals, then they produce the shadow behind the metal. That means cathode rays cast shadow formation. And one more point, in the absence of electric field and magnetic field, these cathode rays travel in a straight line. In the absence of electric and magnetic field, this travel in a straight line. But in the presence of electric field and magnetic field, let us talk about in presence of electric field, then the cathode rays are deviated towards positive sign. Electric field is nothing but negative direction and positive direction. So we are applying here electric field, and we in presence of external electric field, and the cathode rays are shifted towards positive sign. Why they are bent or why they are moving towards the positive direction? This is because cathode rays carry a negative charge. We know that negative charged particles attract positive charge. That is the reason why cathode rays are moving towards or bent towards positive side. And in presence of external magnetic field, the cathode rays are shifted in either north pole or south pole. That is based on the strength of the pole. Suppose if north pole has more strength, the cathode rays are shifted towards either north pole or south pole. That is nothing but in presence of external electric field and magnetic field, the cathode rays are directed in such a direction or directed in such a direction. So this proves that cathode rays carries negative charge. These negatively charged particles are called as electrons. These negatively charged particles are called as electrons. That's why the electron's name was given by J.J. Thomson. And the cathode rays do not depend on the materials of the electrodes and nature of the gas present in the discharge tube. So we can take any kind of material which are used to make electrodes, and we can take any kind of gas is used to fill the discharge tube. That is the reason why cathode rays do not depend on the materials of the electrode and nature of the gas present in the discharge tube. So this is called properties of the cathode rays, and the properties of the cathode rays are explained by J.J. Thomson. That's why the discovery of electrons credit goes to the J.J. Thomson. So J.J. Thomson discovered electrons, but not William Crookes. William Crookes done the experiment, cathode ray discharge tube experiment, but he couldn't explain the properties of cathode rays. Properties of cathode rays are explained by J.J. Thomson, and he named those cathode rays are called electrons. So this is today's session, students. I hope you understand today's section. We'll meet in next session.